1, 2, 1, 2. All right. One, two. Hi everyone, I'm Simon Angling, and this is Learning Out Loud. We know that objectives to enjoy the journey and see where we end up. Hopefully learn something along the way. And yesterday we started having a look at Azure free accounts and what you could achieve with them, and we were thwarted by credit card issues. So we logged a help desk ticket. I didn't take you through that process, and somebody mentioned to me last night that maybe I should take you guys through that process at some point. So I think we'll do that. But for now, let's have a look and see. Okay. So this is where we started. This is the URL, and we clicked on free account, and we went through the sign up process. And so there's a couple of things I learned today. So one was you can't use your credit card on too many different services, otherwise Microsoft get upset. I suppose the logic is they don't get upset, but it's apparently there's a limit of 5 billing processes, or I suppose, yeah, billing accounts that you can use the same credit card on. If you're corporate that needs to have multiple tenants, and you'll set up a billing account, and they will allow you to add to those. Now, I'm not sure that I've got 5 billing accounts. I'm not sure that my credit card's been used. But that being said, the suggested outcome was, or suggested remediation was that we try different credit cards. So I borrowed Caitlin's debit card and my poor daughter. And so anyway, so we, yeah, okay. So it looks like you've already have this is. Let me just. So I borrowed my daughter's debit card, signed up with that, and this is where I got to before I came online now. So 5 subscriptions, or 5 tenants, or 5 billing relationships, 5 billing relationships with the single credit card. If you're corporate, that shouldn't be a problem. And also, if you have a billing relationship and a tenant, you can add additional subscriptions to that tenant under the same billing relationship. So I think we should have a look at the billing relationship process in a bit more detail at some point. I'm going to start creating a list of things that we need to look at. And as I said, somebody asked to go through the help desk process. So what I'll do is take you through that process. So if you have an issue with Azure or an issue with Microsoft systems generally, Microsoft services generally, you are somewhat familiar with that process. But for now, let's continue where we left off last night, and this is the next screen after you've gone through and inputted your credit card details. You end up here. So it gives us opportunity to register for some on-demand demo session, live Q&A session. Choose the option that works best for you. 7 p.m., 9, yeah, so when is that? That is Friday? When's the 19th? So that's Thursday evening. Okay. Let me sign up for this anyway. It's probably useful for you to sign up. Information, business. No. Yeah, that's personal choice. I've clicked this box so many times, and on the most part, I would go with this. I would click on both of these because you don't get spammed. Most of what comes through is useful, interesting information. So let's. But I'm going to turn it off because I'm on so many mailing lists already. I'm going to sign up for this and then just see if anything interesting comes out of it, and I'll let you know. Good one. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to come back to that. Okay, let's go to the portal. Hopefully we should have some information in the portal. We should have, okay, so we're brought into the Quick Start Center. Various courses up, there we go. Look, there's our $200 credit. And let me, while I think about it, let me zoom into the screen a little bit, just so it's easier on the eye. So yeah, so we've got $200 credit remaining. That's available for us for 30 days. After those 30 days, we've still got the services that are free anyway, and that are always free, and there's a whole bunch of services that are free for 12 months. So let's have a look through the Quick Start Center. Create a web app, deploy a virtual machine, deploy and run container-based app, set up a database, get started with data analytics, machine learning, and intelligence, store, backup, or archive data, build, deploy, operate serverless app, setup guide, migration guide, innovation guide. These are nice. I haven't looked at this Quick Start Center for a long time because I just haven't been involved in the process, whereas a brand new subscription, I suppose. And these courses, there are so many courses that you can take, and they're really very good. So, all right, what I want to do is I'm going to come back and look at these a bit later. That's a button I don't recognize. Okay, that's an upgrade from the trial subscription. So if we were ready to go into production and we wanted to upgrade to pay-as-you-go, then that's the button to click. Let's have a look at this menu. Let's go to Home. So what we've done is we've created a subscription in Azure. And I guess we really need to go through with you at some point what a subscription really is and what some of the terminology is. But for now, let's just click on subscriptions and we'll be able to see. So this is under my simonangling.com tenant, and that's my subscription, and that is the subscription ID. I am the owner. Let's click on our subscription. If we look at, let's have a look at billing profile. Here you go. So billing period is January. The bill we will get around, well, will be available to us on the 9th of February. By that stage, hopefully we'll have used up our $200. Maybe. Azure Active Directory. So Azure Active Directory, if you're familiar with Office 365, you might well be familiar with Azure Active Directory because your users reside in Azure Active Directory. And so if you already have Office 365 and now you are starting to think about migrating into Azure, you already have that. And if you're administrator, you're going to be familiar with it already, hopefully. Within this Active Directory, Azure Active Directory instance, there's just me. Nothing exciting going on there. Resource groups, there won't be any. All resources, there won't be any. So that's it. So we have a completely clean and never been used before Azure Active Directory instance. I need to swap these cameras around. All right, what are we doing next? So what I want to do is, one of the things that I actually promised to do was to look at Azure landing zones. And in particular, I promised that I would look at the process of automating Azure landing zones. And I think what we'll do is, that's going to take a while. And I have an hour or so. So if you'll bear with me, I think that's what we're going to do. Go through the process of deploying a landing zone using the portal. So, let's grab some water. Using the portal. Who did this up? And then over time, I want to look at Azure landing zones using Bicep and Azure landing zones possibly using Terraform. And that really will be me learning out loud. I haven't deployed a landing zone with Bicep or Terraform. And so I think that'll be an interesting process. I really want to spend more time looking at automated deployments. So for now, let's start off the deployment process using the portal, and we'll see how our time goes. it will probably take most of our time, and we might even have to come back to it tomorrow to see where we ended up, because I mean, even if I have to step away, we can, let's see how we get on. All right. Deploy a custom template. So if we wanted to use a template to deploy something, and the templates that we're talking about here are ARM templates, which is Azure Resource Manager. What happened? Oh, there we go. It did come up. So if we want to deploy our own template, or we had an Azure Resource Manager template that we wanted to use, we could click on here and it will give us the ability to edit the template or to upload our own template. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to deploy an Azure landing zone, and we're going to use the template that's built in here. So the Azure Landing Zone Accelerator, and I will put all the links that are relevant to this in the description later on this evening or tomorrow. And then tomorrow, I think we will actually talk more about what is an Azure Landing Zone, and maybe I'll draw some pictures. But for now, let's just do this deployment, and we go from there. Oh, hold on, this is interesting. You don't have authorization to perform action. Why not? Why not? Okay, let's park that for a minute. Let's go to Azure Active Directory. Let's have a look at what users we've got. Okay, let me just have a look at this while some guests. There's the one. There's really nothing very exciting in here. Give my access. I'm the owner of the subscription. Owner, that means I should be able to do any grants, full access to manage all resources, and the ability to assign roles in Azure are back. I'm just looking through it. So as the owner, okay, so I'm going to have to come back to this. This seems to be an ongoing theme, doesn't it? So why can't I do this? Let me log out. Let me log out and log back in. Let's do that. Let's sign out. Let's close that. Okay. Oops. Azure Cloud. Okay, let's have a look at this. So this is what we're doing actually. So I suppose Azure landing zones was originally called enterprise scale, and you're still going to see it referred to as enterprise scale in quite a lot of documentation. I think, well, again, I'll add this link to the description. I think the reason that they stopped referring to it as enterprise scale is because it is somewhat off-putting. And so it makes clients feel, or certainly in my experience, sort of clients will say, no, we're just not that big. We don't need all of that yet. What it really is a set of best practices that any enterprise can adopt. And you don't have to take it all, you can take sort of a subset of it. And if you have a look through this document, and we'll have a look at it in sort of other episodes, and once we've actually deployed it, assuming that we managed to deploy it, we will look at why it's best practice and why it's being recommended to do things this way. And we can have a bit of a debate on that. But for now, let's check what we need to do. So, yeah, so we're going to deploy and manage enterprise scale referencing by granting owner permission at tenant root scope. Okay, so maybe let's go back to, let's go to roles and administrators. We want owner. I've got this already though, haven't I? Your role, global, there we go, your role, global administrator. Oh. Add assignments. So this is global administrator at the tenant level. Okay. Back to that directory. Properties. Oh, here we go. Okay. Tenant properties, access management for Azure. Okay, so let's, anybody who's noticed that, we'll discuss that later. Simonangling can manage access to all Azure subscriptions management groups in this tenant. Yes. Save. All right, so we've got, that's an overview, enterprise scale from GitHub, and this is the prerequisites. So we're going to keep those for the moment. Okay. Save that. Let's go back to deploy a custom template. Okay, everybody cross their fingers. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah, that's okay. Let's do this. It should be fine. No, 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 no. Let's not. Let's. Count. New role assignment scope. don't want to do this from an external. Let's read through this. This is connection to the account, which I could actually do. We could do this from assignments. Come on. Oh, there we go. Run once, always run. Yeah, but that doesn't make sense because I was doing this the other day. This is what happens when you rebuild your machine. Let me open up Visual Studio. We need some background music. Sorry, nearly there. So, okay. There's that. Okay, this is a bit of a work in progress, but it's very small. Let's put that to one side. Let's put this on over here. Okay, so what we want to do, so this is the tenant that we want to connect to. This is a polyglot, well, it's a Jupyter workbook, .NET Interactive calls it polyglot. So this is a piece of PowerShell, just assigning the variable to, just assigning this to the variable tenant, so then we can connect, hopefully. Otherwise I'm going to have to switch to my other machine. That's, what was it, other machine? That's fine. There you go. Okay, now it's going to ask me to log in, so we're just authorizing it. And that's our authentication complete. So we're connected, and this is, if we use this command, we can get the context. So we can check to make sure where we're logged in. Now, what are we doing? We wanted to, so let me just create a piece of code down here. And what we want to do is we are going to, we're connected. We want to use the current username. So I'm going to borrow some code from here. And then we're going to assign the role. So we're going to use, so we're creating a variable called user, get AD user, that's the user that's connected. If look, that's this user. And we're going to get context. This is what we're doing over here. New AAD role assignment. So at the tenant level, we're going to give the role definition of owner to the user. Okay, well, we've got optional stuff. Optional design role tenant scope as a user access administration service principal. Okay, let's just run this and see whether we can deploy it. That's it. So I'm now getting a message saying .NET is downloading. Yeah, okay. Okay. Highly recommended that you log it out and log back in. Well, we can do that. It's, but whether or not it's going to be done in time, let's sign out here. Yes, I know, I've got $200. I want to spend it now. Come on. Mm-hmm. 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 Cool. Okay. So we've got owner access rights at the base of the tenant. And the reason we need that is because we need to deploy things that are outside of the subscription. And we'll look at this. When we look at the tenant, well, when we look at the Azure landing zone, we will look at management groups or the base tenant, the management groups and subscriptions. And what I'm not sure of is why we didn't have owner access since we were the ones who created, or I'm the only user, this is my tenant. Anyway, so let's minimize this, let's do that. And we're going to need to go into GitHub and set some stuff up in there. I think we've got everything, but we're just going to have to go through this step by step. Where are we going to deploy it? Well, East US is as good a place as any. Let's do it in South African North. Put it as close as possible to us. Okay, so Azure core setup. This is the management group hierarchy, which I'll explain once this is all set up. Resource group prefix, we can call it ALZ01. Doesn't really matter as long as it's unique. Now, subscription, we only have a single sub, so we're going to go single. The subscription is going to be that one. And this is just allowing Microsoft to get some telemetry so that they know that people are using the Azure Landing Zone Accelerator. Okay, we want to deploy log analytics. So this is everything to do with the platform, the management of the platform, security and governance. So we want to deploy log analytics. We want to retain logs for 30 days because there's free retention for 30 days. So we don't pay further than that. We want to deploy the following solutions that are going to monitor our workloads. So agent health, that is workload agents. Are they healthy? Are they reporting? Are they sending logs? Change tracking, update management, VM insights. So what's been changed? The ability to do updates, operating system updates on VMs, how are the VMs running. Service map is what services and what VMs connect to other VMs. So you can actually see this VM is getting information from that VM, or this VM is connecting to this service. It's really useful. SQL assessment, SQL vulnerability. We're just going to deploy all of these because all we're doing is saying, if we're using these services, I want to monitor them through log analytics. And for the moment, even though we haven't got SQL, we're not going to deploy SQL this week. Let's just set it up so that when we do deploy it, it's going to be there. Okay, let's put my email address in there. Anybody who knows what this is, I am in the process of migrating away, and we'll talk about that. And I also hate the fact it turns up in here, and it's because I rebuilt this machine the other day. I haven't turned it off on here. If you don't want to know what it is, then it doesn't matter. All right, if we have servers, we want to enable Defender. This is obviously more of a more important decision because this is going to affect budgets and affect costs. But we're going to say, if we're using VMs, we're going to set up Defender for it. I want to use that $200. Actually, enabling Defender on most of these things is not going to be expensive. We're going to deploy Sentinel. We will get there eventually. Okay, so now these are all the things we're going to deploy. We can obviously limit those if we wanted to, but for now, we're just going to deploy everything. We can always go back and turn it off. Now, this is interesting. So, what we want to do is continuous integration, continuous development pipeline. Sorry, we'll get to that. But yes, so what we're going to do is we're going to deploy a GitHub tool called, well, it's not a GitHub tool, but it's a tool that's hosted on GitHub, AZ Ops, and it can be used, it's used with GitHub Actions. So what it's going to do, it's going to monitor what's on our deployment. So for now, do we want it? Yes, we do. Do we, who are we going to, sorry, give me a minute. Okay. I really ought to turn that off as well. So, new GitHub repository name, we are going to call it, I have no idea. So, let's go into GitHub and check. Okay, so let's go. We called it ALZ01 was our landing zone instance name or prefix. We are going to create a new, I can actually delete all of this. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, so we need a personal access token, which I think we're going to set up a new one. So we're going to go here. Where is it? It's on settings, I think. Yeah. Developer settings, that's right. Personal access tokens. Okay, so these are two tokens that we've created in the past, and let's delete these. Yeah, let's delete this one. Yeah, We'll generate a new token. Use classic for now. It's going to ask for my password. Okay, let's all right. Give me a minute, everyone. Okay, so I suppose I should really check exactly what permissions it needs, but I'm just going to give it everything for now, which is not best practice, of course, but let me just see the top of my head. Let's do that, do that, do that, do that, do that, do that. And then we're going to click generate token. Okay. And what's it called? We said it's AZOps-ALZ01. I need a haircut. Okay, so token you can only copy once, and when you've copied it, you can no longer have access to it. So that's fine. Let me okay. So I've generated it, I've copied the token, and now I'm going back to here. Okay, paste it into there. Service principal, are we going to create a new one? Are we going to use an existing? Well, this is a brand new subscription, so we're going to use, so we're going to create a new one. So what we're going to do is create an application. Let's just call it AZOps ALZ01. Accounts in this organization. Yep, that's all we need. Let's click register. Okay. We then need to create a client secret. Could be whatever, it doesn't matter. Recommended, how long will we keep it for? Let's do 24 months. We'll probably delete it by then. Okay, let's do that again. New secret. 12 months, excuse me. Okay. Okay, dokie. That's our service principal. Password is. Okay. So that's the password. Okay. And then as part of our Azure landing zone, we can decide what we want to deploy. And we are going to deploy hub and spoke. So we've got hub and spoke with Azure Firewall, hub and spoke with our own third-party NVA, which is Network Virtual Appliance. So if you're using FortiGate or Palo Alto on-prem, and you want to use FortiGate or Palo Alto as an NVA, you can do it that way. If you want to use virtual WAN, and I'm sure we'll get to that at some point, but if you have a strategy of using virtual WAN, then you can use virtual WAN. So for now, we're going to use hub and spoke with Azure Firewall. The address space required for hub virtual network is, well, that's the default, it's fine. If you've got particular requirements, then obviously you can change it, and you would go through the planning process first. Do we want private DNS zones for our platform as a service services? Why not? Are we going to deploy VPN gateway? No. We will, but not right now. I don't want to automate that. Actually, I wonder. Bear with me for a second. Can't type. Free. Turnaround credit. Popular services free for 12 months. View all. Okay, so virtual network, VPN gateway. Okay, so we can deploy VPN gateway 1. So what we could do, come down here, VPN gateway 1 doesn't have that, so redundant regional gateway 1. Regional gateway 1. Okay, so it doesn't support automatic deployment of that, and that only, I wonder why not. But that's free for 750 hours. I think what we're going to do is we're going to not deploy the gateway, because apart from anything else, why are we going to deploy gateway tonight? because in all likelihood is we're not going to set up connectivity to it for a few days. So let me skip that. Do we want to create a firewall? No, because nothing's connecting to us at the moment. And firewall costs money. So look, see what we get from firewall, if anything. Okay, so we're not going to deploy firewall. We're not going to deploy a VPN gateway. We will deploy a VPN gateway because I want to set up connectivity from on-prem to Azure. We're going to go through that in a few days, maybe. But that connectivity cost will come out about $200. So what we'll do is we will deploy that and set that up when we have a requirement for it and we have something specific to do. So no VPN gateway, no expressway gateway, no firewall for now. But we are going to create the network as if we were, well, it's the hub. So we're going to create the network, which everything else will hang off. Okay, network, then identity. So assign recommend policies to govern identity and domain controllers. Yes. Then policies. Do we want to prevent inbound RDP from the internet? It's a really, really good idea, but I'm going to say no for now. No, let's leave it on default. Because then when we actually have the requirement to connect from the internet to a virtual machine, which at the moment we don't have any, then we are going to have to come back and do that. Subnets associated with NSGs, it's best practice, so yes. Ensure, I'm going to say no. One, two, 1, 2. 1, 2. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I think that phone call kicked out my audio for some reason. So, okay, so we were talking about the configuration of the subscriptions, and we only have one subscription. If we were planning this and deploying it from scratch, we might make the decision to have subscriptions for the various different areas. So you might have a subscription for connectivity. That's why. Sorry, everyone. So, it's a funny thing about these headphones is that it connects to my phone and to my computer, and then if my phone rings, then it tries to take over the sound. Anyway, so if we had more than one subscription, we might have a subscription for connectivity. We might have a subscription for a particular department. So it's all about being able to manage our costs and our access. But for this purposes, I only have one subscription. So enable DDoS network protection? No, because it costs quite. There's no external connectivity at the moment, so we don't need to do that. Prevent usage of public endpoints in corporate connectivity landing zones. That's fine. We can leave that on. And at some point, we need to talk about why we're doing that. Ensure private endpoints to Azure platform and services integrated with Azure private. Yeah. Option. Yes, that's also good. Yes. So notice something. So we can audit these things. In fact, you know what we should do? Sorry, guys. So enable DDoS network protection is not actually going to enable it. It's going to create a policy that says it has to be enabled. And if it's on yes, then it will not allow you to deploy a network unless it has DDoS protection enabled. By putting it onto audit, then you can deploy something without DDoS network protection, but it will throw not an error, but a warning in our Azure policies dashboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to audit all these things. That way we have in our test environment the flexibility to do what we want to do without really locking it down too much at this stage. At some point we can maybe lock some of these down, so make it mandatory, for example, that VMs are being monitored. Make it mandatory that we have DDoS protection. But for now, let's just do audit, audit, audit. Also, this is something that if you have a landing zone with the purpose of being a sandbox for developers, this is also a good idea to have all these things on audit rather than locking it down too severely. Because if you lock it down so tight, the developers can't move and they can't create. They keep on getting blocked from things. When you actually go into production, then you need to lock some of these things down. So in our case, we do that. Okay, so hopefully, now if I click review and create, it's going to take a couple of minutes, and then it's going to start deploying. And it's 7:15, and my power goes off at 8. So those of you who are not in South Africa, we have, at the moment, we've got rolling blackouts. They're called load shedding in this country. And there we go, validation passed. And so my power's going out at 8 o'clock. Validation's passed. This is a record of everything that we have said we want to deploy. And if we click create, then it's going to start deploying it. Submitting deployment. And here we go. Here we go. And we're off. Excuse me. Okay, so this is obviously going to take a little while. I'm going to leave this running for, how long is it going to take? I think it's going to take, I don't think it's going to finish before 8 o'clock. It usually takes about, I haven't done this for a while. It's going to take about 45 minutes, I think. So I'm going to put my headphones on mute. I'm going to leave this running and I will keep an eye on it. And if you want to follow it along, who will? But let me go and make a cup of coffee while I still have electricity. And I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so we're not going to finish this by 8 o'clock. But I'm going to leave it running for another 15 minutes and there we go. That's what I wanted to point out. So this is a bit, this preparing to launch 0. We can get preparing to launch 1, preparing to launch 2, preparing to launch 3. This is a loop that is built in. I forget how far up it goes. It's built in to keep the operation alive while it's deploying all of these policies, all these procedures, creating management groups and so on. There we go, 1. This is going to carry on up until, I want to say 36, but I can't remember. And the first time you come across this, it gets quite where you feel like it's stuck in a loop. So I went and had a look at the code just to sort of see what was going on in there. So this will probably finish at, we might do it. How long have we got? We've got 15 minutes. No, we're not going to do it. So let's stop here, and we will come back to this tomorrow and see what has been deployed. So yeah, thanks for spending time with me. I hope it was useful. I hope I didn't waffle too much, but we have our free account set up. We're deploying an Azure landing zone. We will look at this in more detail tomorrow. So have a lovely evening and we'll chat soon.